We have consistently invested in gold and gold specifically. Our first piece of advice was to slow down on the silver rush. Although silver's price will rise more sharply and later, the gold to silver ratio is still slightly elevated. We still consider it an investment, but we had to technically break down first. Now we need the craze. This is a discussion about trade. Thus, we are accumulating assets through trade and investments. Furthermore, the gold market is currently active. As I sit here, the days add up to 6 figures. Knowing how insiders function is where the true opportunity is. Francis Hunt, a technical trader, claims that silver is set to soar after gold delivered as expected. This is about a system of finance that is set up to leave regular people in the dust. It is time to get a feel for the game and take charge of your own finances. Some experts are predicting that silver prices might reach $100 per ounce in the future, which would be lower than the over $200 high of roughly $19.80 today's dollars, but it would still be a bullish situation due to the combination of monetary and industrial demand. Even though gold gets all the attention, silver has jumped by an even more impressive amount, hitting 14-year highs above $42 per ounce. The precious metals bull market has been strongly confirmed by this. In strong trend situations, silver tends to amplify gold's moves. It was like a rich person charging a trip to their credit card when the United States abandoned the gold standard in 1971. However, the system has hit rock bottom due to decades of falling output and increasing debt. We have reached debt saturation, says Francis Hunt, and the upcoming reset will affect everyone. A number of financial crises, such as those in 2008, March 2020, and the bank failures of March 2023, have gradually eroded confidence in that power, and there are signs that a tipping point is on the horizon. America has racked up the greatest national debt in recorded history. At $37 trillion and growing, the national debt is quickly becoming the biggest expense item for the United States, with an interest bill of $1 trillion each annum. The World Gold Council reports that central banks, in their pursuit of asset diversification, have been a major driver of worldwide demand for gold. In 2024, they bought more than 1,000 tons of gold, continuing a trend that began in 2013. Prior to delving into Francis Hunt's astute observations from his most recent interview, ensure that you never miss an opportunity to witness the intersection of truth and market by hitting the subscribe button and tapping the bell icon. Now let's begin. Asking yourself if you are paying attention to the correct individuals is crucial. Take note to what this man is saying. Admire him. He's saying you these terrible things while wearing his black spectacles and white shirt. Just so you know, these settings actually have a ton of potential. That is a disadvantage. The other 95% will be kept, but the ones who don't get it will be eliminated. If you want to be one of the 1% who knows the insider's game and can anticipate their moves while still protecting and expanding their wealth, you'll need to be one of the 5% who do, of which 4% will be insiders. Debt is a disaster. Debt will decrease, we informed everyone. What's going on? Our debt has decreased. The long-term debt continues to decline, as we previously mentioned, with a TLT. We have already informed you that the price of gold will increase. We have consistently invested in gold, and gold specifically. We warned people not to get in on the silver bandwagon too soon, because the metal's price will rise more sharply and later, but the gold to silver ratio will remain the same. Little bit high, we had to break down technically so that we could now enjoy the craze, but we still consider it an investment. This is a discussion about trade. Thus, we are accumulating assets through trade and investments. At this very moment, I am aware that the total value of the gold deal is 6 figures expressed in days. Not only is it easy money, but that person is special. Well, it's hard to imagine a nurse making that much in 5 years, but then again, who would trade long gold for her? Just one person. And her heart breaks. And it's a tragic truth because she's performing a really selfless and professional act. Either she lacks the necessary financial education or she is completely alone. And that's a horrible outcome because, society needs paramedics, nurses, and veterinarians, among other decent individuals. Your money, your problem, is the world's most important lesson that everyone must learn. Learn the ins and outs of the game, pick the proper advisor, and pay attention so you can call BS too. As an example, consider 1971, when the world went off gold and everyone thought it was going to end. In the end, it did. After World War II, they implemented a policy of free float, and the world began to believe that the dollar would be beneficial due to their status as the world's leading military and economy. At the time, the United States was genuinely producing a great deal of goods. Additionally, they maintained a substantial level of production. After that, things went sideways, and their debt was minimal. That being said, it is acceptable for you to suggest using your credit card. We each make $250,000 a year, but we're quite conservative. So let's say we spend $100,000 on our houses and lifestyle. And then I propose that we simply take a vacation and charge part of the cost to our credit cards. I don't see it as corruptible or harmful to my long-term sustainability, as long as I continue to earn that amount and everything. I have 20 grand to go on a 2-week vacation. Of course, we can also go scuba diving. Dealing with that should be within my capabilities. This is the point at which my cost of living increases from $150 to $175 to $200, while my income decreases from $250 to $200 to $150. My salary has dropped to $150, and my living expenses have risen to $225. As a result, I am now actively juggling credit cards. At the end of each year, I transfer my personal loan to a different bank, which adds to my debt. The penny drops eventually. Evidently, there is a discernible development. If the cycle were ideal, we could return to the United States at any time between 1945 and 1970, build up our credit to the point where we could return, and we would still be one of the top producers without any debt. This would put us right back where we were immediately after World War II. We're not ensnared in some sort of vortex. We've come a long way, and seemingly insignificant mistakes taken here have become compounded over decades into major decisions that have caused enormous issues. So at some point, you reach a tipping point where the drugs become too much for your body to handle. The bankruptcy courts are taking a dim view of you because you listed too much debt. They may assume that you are unable to pay your rent or utilities and may even consider seizing your possessions. Prior to your Debt Phoenix event, you should organize a low-key second-hand auction for cash, liquidate all of your assets, and then enter the room with your mom's hand on your shoulder. Thus, that is roughly our current situation. After you've done all that, painted the floor, burned everything, and retreated to one corner of the room, you're done. It's like you've spilled blood all over the room now. And you're still painting, getting closer and closer to your feet, and there's only one corner left. When it comes to debt, there is a limited amount of wiggle space in any situation. The same way that we can only eat so much cake, so can drug addicts and crackheads snort so much cocaine until they either die of an overdose or permanent harm to their bodies. As far as money is concerned, we have reached that stage. That is evident in the markets as well. Gold is a clear indicator of such. Our current precarious situation is a direct result of this. Yes, it's that terrible, and it's going to have an impact on everyone, including you. You may have more success with the new method if you claim, "I don't have much," and then allow everything burn down. You have a lot more to lose. Believe me when I say that. Things will go missing for your folks. Less money will end up in your estate. No matter how little property you own, someone could contest your claim to what little you do own, or even your parents' claim to what little they have. All of a sudden, you could end up living on the streets like those folks without homes. Then there are the vibes that are riotous. When you're ready, you can obtain your shot and your UBI allocation by standing in line. Additionally, you refrain from using hate speech and remain silent when addressed, and everyone is keeping tabs on you. And here are the regulations. What follows is the technical oligarchical gulag they've been plotting all along. Because these are good people, I really don't give survival any thought. From their perspective on the outside world, they are decent folks. In contrast to earlier decades, It seems like the Federal Reserve is having less of an impact on the financial markets. Experts in the market are beginning to wonder if the Federal Reserve still has the sway over the market that it formerly did. By year's end, the futures market predicts a 3.5 percentage point reduction in interest rates, in line with predictions that the Federal Reserve will try to rev up a flagging economy. A secret fact of the financial system requires your understanding. In addition to being unsustainable, the debt-based system is fraught with hidden dangers and widespread deceit. Your bank deposits aren't really yours, Francis Hunt says. You leave yourself open to a massive theft of assets since they are susceptible to counterparty risk. Creditors and governments see you as a security risk. When the economy takes a turn for the worst, wealthy investors like BlackRock and Vanguard will be in a prime position to buy assets at a bargain. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago found that investors saw gold as a hedge against economic downturns. When interest rates are low, and when the economy and politics are unstable, gold is a good investment because it is a safe haven. At the same time, Francis is pleading with people to turn their commitments into tangible assets. Promoting digital finance isn't all about making things easier. The goal is to force you into a rent-based economy dominated by corporations and remove you from any direct ownership. Now we may return to the interview. From a purely financial standpoint, the ability to accumulate wealth in a world with massive debt debasement and to remain afloat in all kinds of financial systems are paramount. There's a significant chance of losing money in the bank. There's a risk of losing share certificates, which you don't actually own. There's a chance of losing other people's hard work in that area, of which Mr. Webb is a part. And there's a chance of system failures, where they say, well, we never had it. It seems like we're currently engaged in two different activities. Many individuals are going to be quite upset. Therefore, I believe they would prefer that you remain unarmed and pose no threat whatsoever. If our tribe was truly a warrior one, we would have been executing bankers and other high-ranking officials for their crimes committed in 2008, when they should have been bailed out, but instead passed the bill on to the people. However, we persisted in devouring it, since few had the intestinal fortitude to do anything other than establish the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, Scumworks, Bitcoin, and express our genuine anger at the financial cartel. Achieve freedom with this. A fairy tale in and of itself, it is completely decentralized. The narrative that the financial cartel was bailed out at the expense of the public is being pushed to the side by that front-running psyop. Because of the far-reaching consequences of their actions, you will eventually be unable to conceal them. You should be aware, though, that this is not a fair or equal system. The next time you hear the terms racism, equality, or rebuilding, remember that these are all merely euphemisms used to appease the public as they pursue a totalitarian plan to drastically cut the population and do anything else they want. Since you won't be able to borrow money, government services will likely be cut drastically, so it's important that you take steps to ensure your safety, leave the West, keep your finances in order, gold and silver will be huge help with this, and become self-sufficient. That's why we concluded that the debt market's 40-year bull market ended in late 2020, our most major prediction. It took 4 years before most of the brightest brains in the field agreed with it. Plus, the majority of YouTube commenters right now don't get it.